Why am I doing this? I mean, what's the point? Is this all life is about? Things are changing so fast, I don't think I can keep up with it. I mean, I just don't know anymore. What's going on? Hey everyone, AAC here with a special guest, Green Man SMG19.
Hi.
Today we are going to be reviewing, what are we reviewing?
Daigoro versus Goliath.
That's right. Today we are going to be reviewing Daigoro versus Goliath. But first, some background. Kaijus. I don't know much about them. It's a genre where there's big monster, and sometimes there's another one, and they fight. Japan. And this movie's one of those.
Thanks for that brief explanation of the genre. Kaiju Daifushin Daigoro Tai Goresu, in English, Daigoro vs. Goliath, is a 1972 kaiju film made in collaboration between Toho Company Limited and Tsuburaya Productions to celebrate Tsuburaya Productions' 10-year anniversary. That's right, the people behind Godzilla and Ultraman made a movie. Now, originally, this collaboration would have led to 2 movies being made. The first film would have been the next Godzilla installment, Godzilla vs. Red Sun. However, for some unknown reasons, this film would go unmade, and Godzilla vs. Hedorah would be made instead. But bits and pieces of the script would rear its ugly mug into this movie. The second film was going to be a historical drama about the founder of Tsuburaya Productions, the legendary E.G. Tsuburaya. However, it being the early 70s, which was a very, very bad time in Japan and budget limitations, they decided to go the safer route and produce a kaiju film instead. This movie was directed and written by Toshihiro Igiyama, a man who directed various amounts of Ultra Q, Ultraman, Ultra 7, and Return of Ultraman episodes, as we now watch his attempts to make a feature-length film. I don't see anything wrong with a man who's only worked on TV shows trying to make a feature-length film now.
Yeah, never gone wrong before.
So with that explanation out the way, let's stomp through Daigoro vs. Goliath.
The movie begins with the astonishing convention Great Shock.
Yeah, if it wasn't obvious enough, this movie never had any official English release, which would explain the odd and most of the time nonsensical fan subtitles. Probably because no English-speaking company wanted this drug-filled slop.
We meet our main character, who I can only describe as a bootleg version of Ernest.
Even though this came out first.
Shut the hell up. The comparison is accurate, though. He is a wacky, bumbling inventor with a Pee Wee Herman-ass house who for some reason likes to hang out with little children. But in a Michael Jackson way, not in a Michael Jackson way. So Japanese Ernest enters the contest in hopes of winning money for something called Daigoro. Now, us feeble-minded viewers don't know what the heck a Daigoro even is, but the brilliant filmmakers decided to inform us via a flashback sloppily inserted into the middle of this scene. We fade to some island in the Pacific where we are face to face with what the actual fuck is that?
That is our title character, Daigoro.
This character design is really something. I can't decide if it's cute or absolutely hideous. The suit is extremely cheap and low quality. Sometimes you can see the eye holes for the actor. But aside from that, this character is oddly endearing. I can't explain it.
We find out that Daigoro's caretakers are going through tough times financially and are forced to decrease his daily amounts of food. This upsets Daigoro, so he walks away.
Then the movie decides to zoom in on a cobweb, before cutting back to Daigoro. Then the flashback ends even more abruptly than it started, and we return to the astonishing convention. Welcome to Film 101 with AC. Now, the scene we just discussed is certainly important to the overall film. It introduces our title character as well as the central conflict of the story, that being that Daigoro has grown too big and they can no longer afford to feed him. The problem is that this scene is just randomly jammed in the middle of a completely different scene. Now, we can't cut this scene due to its importance, but no competent filmmaker can just leave it like this. After hours of thought, I have come to this conclusion on how to fix this glaring flaw with the film. You move this flashback to the beginning of the movie and have it cut to the astonishing convention afterwards. Now the movie will begin with these landscape shots of the island instead of the abrupt start of the final cut. This scene would also be a much better introduction of Japanese Ernest. Overall, I think you'll agree that this solution is a massive improvement over the original, and an incredibly simple one to boot. In fact, it's so easy and so simple that it really makes you wonder, why the fuck didn't they do that instead? Back at the convention, Japanese Ernest shows off his invention, the aero bike. Supposedly, it's a flying car, but it doesn't seem to fly all that well. Japanese Ernest races around like a maniac while the opening credits play.
Now this is pod racing.
Oh, short movie.
You get back down here. No, sadly, he somehow survives that, and with one laughably bad effect, he flies into a tree.
Huh. He looks pretty happy that his machine exploded. What the fuck? Why did you freeze frame? You had to have filmed him falling. Why not just show the full shot? The ground is already off camera, so it's not like we would have seen him land anyway. You still could have done that stupid bounce sound. It makes no sense to freeze frame.
After the crash, Japanese Ernest ends up in the hospital.
Then this guy shows up and beats the shit out of him for no reason, hits on his knees, makes this face, and leaves.
At first, we thought this guy was a doctor, but no, he's just some guy.
I think the joke is supposed to be that he confused Ernest with this guy, but that doesn't explain this weird exchange with Ernest's niece.
Out of all the scenes in the movie, this is the one where the subtitles just completely fail. For most of the film, they are serviceable, but here they are completely useless.
So Japanese Ernest contacts the Environmental Health Ministry for aid in feeding Daigoro, and the best idea they come up with is to suppress his growth.
Then we cut to live footage of an average Asian Nana.
We find out that Daigoro's mother destroyed some buildings, so they had to put her down. But one of the missiles clearly missed and fired off in a completely different direction.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I think I finally escaped that giant kaiju attack. Aw, man.
Also, Daigoro's mom has boobies. Just thought I should mention that.
After they blew up his mom, they decided to freeze. I didn't think I would ever say this in a video. Okay, hold on. After they blew up his mom, the people of Japan decided to raise Daigoro. I mean, how could you resist that face?
Oh my god, it's disgusting. I think I saw that thing in a South Park episode once.
Help me.
Then there's this weird scene of Japanese Ernest and this girl trying to have a romantic moment while Daigoro keeps cock-blocking them.
I don't know what he expected. If I brought a girl to the zoo, I wouldn't be upset that animals kept ruining my romantic evening. Also, wait a minute, how did the girl go home if they're on an island? Did she swim back? In the next scene, Japanese Ernest is giving a speech trying to convince the people to donate money to feed Daigoro. Also, a minor continuity error. In the previous scene, he didn't have his leg cast and was walking around normally. But in this scene, his injury is back and he needs a crutch to walk.
What? A kaiju movie with continuity errors? Get out of town.
Anyway, Japanese Ernest struggles to convince the crowd of his cause. But then, out of nowhere, Hospital Man returns and gives a resounding speech denouncing the people of Japan for being so cheap and selfish. And when that doesn't work, he fucking starts fighting everybody. Me reimagining an argument 2 hours after I lost.
Afterwards, Hospital Man, whose real name is Kuma, has a talk with Japanese Ernest, and he decides to give up drinking in order to save money to feed Daigoro.
Now it's time for a musical number.
Also, Comet carrying the main antagonist crash lands on Earth. Okay, next scene.
Japanese Ernest decides that the best way to raise money is to come up with a new invention.
そうだ。魔法の靴だ。
Oh yeah, magic shoes. No duh, why didn't I think of that?
Then we are treated to a montage dream sequence of him using his magic shoes. Who the fuck runs like that?
So, those would be way more useful than cars, especially in Japan. Are you stupid? Next, we are treated to multiple scenes of Kuma trying to quit drinking. Also, this happens.
So the Environmental Health Ministry starts lacing Daigoro's food with drugs to halt his growth.
Ah, he has the same prescription as Burt Ward.
これがもしお宅のお子さんだったらどうなんです
And to make things worse, Kuma's wife spent all the money he was saving for Daigoro on clothes.
Women, am I right? So at the next year's astonishing convention, Great Shock, Japanese Ernest demonstrates a rocket that will make rain.
But much to his confusion, instead of raining, it starts snowing.
Turns out his invention crashed into the ground a few feet away with nobody noticing, and the snow is falsely attributed to the machine, giving him the prize money.
But the storm continues and Daigoro starts acting angry and aggressive.
Turns out the abnormal weather and Daigoro's strange temper is caused by our main antagonist, Goliath, who is the one kaiju who can rival Daigoro in looking really derpy.
He looks like a rejected Muppet.
Goliath comes to shore to fight Daigoro, leading to our first big kaiju fight of the movie. Now, if it isn't obvious, I have never seen a kaiju movie in my life, but to my understanding, these are always the best part of the movie. The rest is always weird and stupid, but the big monster fight is the main draw. So I'm optimistic. Maybe a really entertaining monster fight can turn this whole thing around. Holy shit, this is the worst choreography I have ever seen. I've directed better fight scenes with just myself. The fucking Left Shark had better choreography. How did anyone look at this and think it was passable?
Most Toku fights are slow, I get it, but this is ridiculous. Why the hell do they move like two geriatric old men? Obi-Wan and Vader in A New Hope move faster than this. Slowing down the footage is essential to making the kaijus feel massive and make their fakey punches hold some impact. While here, the footage is too slow. It feels like two Stretch Armstrongs, especially with Goliath swinging his dumb arms around. There's no impact to any of these hits. It's awful.
What? I'm sorry. How exactly did the physics for that work? In this shot, we can clearly see that he's jumping straight up. So for him to fly forward in this position, he would have to rotate his body 90 degrees and somehow push himself off of the fucking air in order to gain enough forward momentum to launch himself at Goliath in this way. Welcome back to Film 101 with AC. Today, we are discussing fight scenes in movies. Class, instead of bending the laws of physics in order to have Daigoro pull off this frankly stupid-looking move, you should instead have him dive forward towards Goliath in an attempt to tackle him, and still have Goliath dodge and Daigoro fall face first into the water. Doing this would be much more believable, and not be any more difficult than the move that the director went with. So why didn't they think of this first?
Goliath defeats Daigoro and leaves his character suit deflated on the shoreline.
But don't worry, after this serious climactic moment, we dissolve to a happy montage of supplies heading towards the island. Doesn't that fit in perfectly with the serious dramatic moment we just had? A doctor is brought to the island who says that Daigoro is dead and there's nothing they can do about it. Incredibly distraught, Kuma grabs a bucket of honey and dumps it in the giant kaiju's mouth, as you do with corpses. Miraculously, this actually revives Daigoro, who proceeds to vor Kuma.
Oh, God.
Let me do that again.
No! So the main characters figure out that Goliath is from space, and Japanese Ernest is kind enough to give us a science lesson.
地球はね、空気で覆われてるわけだけども、太郎くん、空気ってものは人間が使うためにあるわけじゃないんだよ。宇宙から地球に飛んできて衝突しようとするものから守るためにあるわけなんだ。ところが人間たちが やたらに空気を使い果たしてしまったためにそのバランスが崩れて。
I don't think that's how that works.
Shut up. Nobody wants to hear you pretend you paid attention during high school science again.
Okay. They discuss nuking Goliath, and Kuma starts another pointless fight. They ultimately decide to train up Daigoro to fight Goliath. Also, Goliath blows some stuff up, but that isn't important.
What is important is that it's time for this movie to get philosophical.
そんなことをしていて人間はあと何年この地球で生きていくことができるんじゃろう。100年50年いや海の次に空を失えばもう生きていくことはできんのじゃ。
Followed by some shots of animals and stuff because Daigoro vs. Goliath is a very deep movie.
Anyway, Daigoro fucking blows up Japanese Ernest with his fire powers that he has now. Time for the final battle.
Japanese Ernest invented a piece of cloth that, when overlaid on top of Goliath's horn, will cancel out his electric powers.
The plan is for Japanese Ernest, Kuma, and this third guy to get on top of Goliath and place the cloth on his horn, then signal to Daigoro to start fighting him.
But it all goes wrong when the signal is given too early and Daigoro gets fucked up by Goliath's electric powers.
The three scramble to get the cloth over Goliath's horn before jumping into the sea, only for it to get blown off less than 2 minutes later. Glad that was worth it. What follows is another poorly choreographed fight with goofy-looking stunts. A few highlights are Daigoro standing on Goliath while Goliath just lifts him up like it's no big deal, Goliath throwing an empty Daigoro suit into the air, Daigoro just kind of collapsing here, and last but certainly not least, Goliath revealing that he can fucking fly. Speaking of Goliath, I'd like to take a quick detour and complain about how awful this suit is. Daigoro isn't great either, but they really cut corners with Goliath's suit. He looks completely dead-eyed and soulless. It is incredibly obvious that there is nothing in this suit's head because of how it just flops from side to side with his mouth just hanging open. And it isn't just his head that's full of air. Notice how the only fighting move Goliath can seem to pull off is to flail his arms around like an idiot? Well, it appears that the suit is either fundamentally flawed, or the stuntman inside was too short, and for some reason they couldn't hire someone else. But either way, the suit's arms are too big for the stuntman, and they can't reach the hands of the suit. This is extremely obvious in shots like this, where the empty arms are folding in on themselves.
Broken. There's no bones left.
But even if the stuntman could reach the hands, it wouldn't matter because they appear to just be some foam Incredible Hulk fists painted blue. It's so strange because the Daigoro suit doesn't have this problem at all. So why did they design the Goliath suit like this?
The fight ends when Daigoro uses his fire powers to fucking blow Goliath's horn off of his head, defeating him immediately. Then they strap him onto a rocket and launch his ass into space.
With Daigoro no longer needing donations, Kuma is able to start heavily drinking again. Yay, happy ending?
Dude didn't fall off the wagon, he just said, "This is my stop," and got off.
Japanese Ernest's niece got married.
Oh yeah, that was a subplot, I think.
And we end with Daigoro taking a shit.
Well, that's a fitting ending.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me.
That was Daigoro versus Goliath. So, what do you think, AC? AC?
What?
So, what'd you think of the movie?
I actually really liked it.
Wait, what?
This movie obviously has many problems, but they all add to its charm. At first, I was blind and thought that Daigoro vs. Goliath was poorly made and objectively not good. But after repeated viewings, I've seen the light and understand the creative vision that Toshihiro Iijama had intended. The movie is supposed to be stupid. It's a silly monster movie for kids. The characters are all kooky and strange in order to entertain those creepy, small, underdeveloped humans. And let's be honest, by kaiju movie standards, the plot isn't that crazy, especially since it's intended to be silly. Sure, the movie could have had a higher budget and would have benefited from a few drastic rewrites here or there, as well as an actual choreographer for the fight scenes, But other than that, I think that Daigoro vs. Goliath is a good movie. No, a great movie. And I am jealous that the children of Japan had such a fantastic movie to entertain them and teach them important life lessons, such as be kind to others, donate to charity, protect our beautiful planet and not foolishly waste our precious oxygen, and most of all, it's okay to drink heavy amounts of alcohol. It's really a shame that the foolish grown-ups of Japan didn't see the masterpiece that Toshihiro Iijama had made for them. And even more so that the weak-minded Americans didn't clamor for an English dub for our so-called greatest country on earth. God, it all makes so much sense now. Why Japan is so amazing and America has fallen into such economic turmoil and social upheaval. For we never had a movie as perfect as Daigoro vs. Goliath to show us the way. How about you?
This movie is bad. I understand that Tsuburaya and Toho had some budget problems during the early 70s, but with all these great people from these two companies working together, not to mention the fact that this is an anniversary film, this could have been the next Godzilla movie, or a cool docudrama, or better yet, Godzilla vs. Ultraman! But instead, we get this nonsensical blunder. The deep underlining messaging of most kaiju films just doesn't exist here, and the one that does exist is just thrown in at the last second. The characters are just super over-exaggerated. The kaiju designs go from whatever Daigoro is to just plain stupid. The effects have really taken a bad hit, and everything about it just doesn't feel right. It just feels like an episode of Ultraman Leo, and I mean like those episodes of Ultraman Leo. The ones that are just like Diet Ultraman Taro, without any of the cool and or funny moments like Taro, and are just plain stupid. FYI, I love you, Ultraman Leo. It's one of my favorite Ultra series, but it just has some really bad, stupid episodes, but it's what this movie reminds me of.
How dare you say such blasphemous things!
It's a mediocre movie at best, man.
No, I will not stand for this. There's only one way to resolve this.
We accept each other's opinions and move on with our lives like normal adults?
Fuck no. We partake in a fight scene vaguely similar to the movie we just watched.
Fine.
Okay, that does it. It's time to use my special move.
Hey, wait a minute! These two are different characters! That's why Japanese Ernest's cast disappeared between scenes, because this isn't Japanese Ernest at all! And neither of us noticed because they were hardly ever on screen with each other! Now I have all these new questions! Why was this guy not present for the final battle despite having way more screen time than Kuma's friend? Why is Japanese Ernest so obsessed with helping Daigoro if he doesn't work with him and only interacted with him once in the entire movie? Does this movie even have a main character? Well, shit. Too late to rewrite the script. I guess I just have to scrap the entire video and start over. Should have just made Slanders Last Stand Part 2 instead.